I've been ready to.
You are ready.
Oh, there you go.
Roberta, okay. We'll call the Board of Supervisors, Ventura County, for the meeting of March 19th to order. Will you do the roll call, please, Roberta?
Supervisor Bennett?
Here.
Supervisor Parks?
Here.
Supervisor Long?
Here.
Supervisor Zaragoza? And Supervisor Foy.
Yes, here. And Supervisor Zaragoza will be gone today. He is in, I think, Washington, isn't he? Yes, with RDP 21. So we wish him all the best to try to keep our base moving, and thank you for doing that. And we now have our moment of inspiration, and we'd like to call Rabbi Dov Muchnik, Director of the Chabad of Oxnard Jewish Center and the Port Hueneme Police Chaplain. Sir, would you come up? I know you're a good friend of John Zaragoza, and he's going to miss you today, but we appreciate you being here.
Did he plan this? Good morning. I wore my hat for the prayer.
Looking good.
Thank you.
See all those guys in that khaki back there, wish they were in blue, I don't know. No, they wouldn't say that. Stirred up.
Supervisor Foy, CEO Powers, and all the esteemed members of the Ventura County Board of Supervisors. Thank you for welcoming me here today as you meet to better the lives of the residents of Ventura County. The Jewish festival of Passover is fast approaching. It commemorates the ancient Hebrews' exodus from Egyptian slavery over 3,300 years ago. There are many universal lessons to be learned from the holiday of freedom and liberation. Passover is called in the Bible the festival of spring and occurs in the Hebrew month of Nisan, meaning miracles. In spring, we see nature in its most revealed state. The flowers bloom, the trees blossom, animals awake from hibernation. It is then, in the most natural of seasons, that we commemorate the most supernatural of all miracles, the Exodus from Egypt. This is no accident. It is our mission to reveal the hidden goodness and spirituality specifically within that which seems so mundane and natural. It's certainly not easy. We may struggle through, quote, cold winter days, I'm from New York, when productivity is lost and the promise of spring seems non-existent. These are our personal modern-day Egyptian slaveries from which we must strive to liberate ourselves. Passover entreats us to break out of our winter lethargy and take bold steps to bring to light our inner strengths and talents and liberate ourselves from our personal slaveries, our inner Egyptian exile. I would like to offer a prayer that God bless each one of you in this most vital mission to find the wisdom and understanding to do the will of the people and create a safe, secure, and nurturing environment for the citizens of Ventura County. Almighty God, bless the men and women of this board to work together in peace and harmony for the greatest good of the people of our cities, and let us say amen.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Would you do us one more honor and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Can you do that?
I'd love to.
Huh?
I don't know it all exactly.
That's all right. We'll go with you. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay. We now have our minutes of February 12th and 26th. We have a motion, and we have a second. Can we all vote, please? Guess my iPad is not charging. Okay. All right. We got everybody there, Roberta? All right. And then I am missing my top. What do we have? Agenda review next. Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Chair Foy. Just a couple items, as you just acted on. Item 5, the minutes of the meetings of February 12 and 26, 2013 were distributed and posted online. Time certain agenda item 15, the resolution proclaiming March 2013 as Women's History Month was distributed and posted online. And then finally, the regular agenda item 26 has a revised board letter. And that's it.
That's it. Anybody have anything else? No? Okay. Then we'll make a motion for the agenda. As
Motion to receive agenda as revised.
second. We all vote there, Roberta? One more? Linda, can you vote real quick? Don't hold this meeting up. All right, great. Well, thank you. And then we have our consent agenda. And does anybody have any comments on the consent? If not, I'd like to poll number 13 for discussion. All right, then why don't we, how about if we vote on 10, 11, 12, and 14, and then we can discuss
Make a
them.
motion to do that.
All right,
Oh, got 13 for discussion.
yep. All right, so there you go. Let's pull 13. We have speaker cards on 13 too, but I just, my thought was I'd like to just hear a little bit about this. I know Supervisor Long, this is your district, and you probably understand this greater than anybody. And this project's been going on a long time. But I would like to just talk a little bit about, because I know we've got some conflict or some perceived conflict with the farming community on this. So what I'd like to do is hear from some of the speakers first, and then we can discuss. Rob Roy?
Good morning, Chairman Foy and board members, Mr. Powers. At 5:14 on Friday, I first heard about this. And I spoke to John Christ because Farm Bureau apparently was very embroiled in this process from 1990 until 2000. There were many public meetings, all kinds of workshops, comments, etc. In the end analysis, the battle was fought, and the Transportation Commission basically won. But there were certain concessions with regard to the EIR that were part of the EIR in terms of mitigation measures. Security fencing was one of them. And in the ensuing years, in the last 12 years, it's been pretty dormant, as I understand it. No one's really seen this thing on the radar screen. But in those ensuing years, there's been a lot of changes in the ag industry. Good agricultural practices have been adopted, the Leafy Green Marketing Agreement, and in 2010, the Federal Food Safety Modernization Act, which just published for comment regulations that deal with food safety. And this was as a result of all these foodborne deaths that happened in the United States over the last 4 or 5 years. And in the notice with regard to these regulations, I might note that they do address the issue of domesticated and wild animals. And it says pathogens can be introduced into fruit and vegetable production systems via animal feces. And they do indicate that farms would be required to take measures to prevent pathogens from being introduced onto the produce. In addition, farms would be required to monitor for significant wild animal intrusion events both immediately before harvest and as needed during the growing season, and not harvest produce that is visibly contaminated with animal excreta. So there are federal food safety concerns about not only wild animals but domesticated animals accessing food production areas that we're really concerned about, because there's a lot of liability to the grower. There are enforcement mechanisms in this law that they could recall an entire product, red tag these things, creates liability for the grower, potentially could create liability for the county if there were a lawsuit by the growers. And so I'm supportive of the bike path, so I want that understood. My role here today is just to bring to your attention an issue that may not have ever been considered when this thing was adopted back in 2000. And looking at the plans, it seems to me that some of the fencing would permit domesticated animals, wild animals, to go underneath the fencing and get into these ag production areas. So we would propose that, you know, there'd be some type of change to the order. Maybe there's some contingency funding for this, but maybe modification of the fencing, maybe not permitting dogs on the path. Putting in periodic bathrooms so people decide they're not going to use the field. And trust me, I have seen everything from cars to sofas to dead bodies in fields in the last 37 years. You never know what you're going to find in there. Someone might decide they're going to go with their children and throw a diaper in the field. I don't know. But there's always the potential for that. So the concern here is to allow for the bike passage, but to do some measures that would recognize the federal obligations towards food safety of the farmers. I spoke with John Chris this morning, who authorized me to express the same concerns on part of the Farm Bureau with regard to these security measures. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then Matthew Freeman.
Good morning, Supervisor Foy and members of the County Supervisors Board. I'm Matthew Freeman, General Manager of the Camillus Ranch, LLC. The Camillus Ranch covers roughly 1,800 acres in East Piru and is dominantly agricultural area. Approximately 900 acres are planted to row crops, strawberries, and orchards. It has been farmed and ranched continuously for over 174 years. Originally, this right-of-way was granted to be used by trains. Public use of this corridor for riding bikes and walking is clearly a significant deviation of the right-of-way's original and intended use. Had Camillus Ranch been aware of this proposed change of use, the right-of-way would have been repurchased by the Camillus Ranch approximately 20 years ago, and we would still repurchase the right-of-way today, saving the taxpayer money while protecting the public and our ongoing agricultural activities. Phase 3 would construct 1.2 miles of bike and walking trails starting at our western property at Center Street and dead end near Highway 126, where a Caltrans taking reduces the VCTC right-of-way to approximately 25 feet. It isn't clear whether the rest of the planned trail can ever be built. This particular section is a trail, in our opinion, to nowhere, costing $1 million per mile. The Santa Paula Branch Line Recreational Master Plan and the EIR are specific in how important it is to protect agriculture from both direct and indirect impacts. It specifically recommends features such as an automated security control system and video cameras, 6-foot-high posts and wire fencing with a 9-foot fence zone between the trail and adjacent property. Automated crossing arms across the trail at each agricultural road crossing and notification signage that the trail is subject to closure. None of these features are included in the bid package, which has no security measures whatsoever to protect agriculture. In fact, actual fencing details show a 3-foot-high wire fence between the trail and ag land with the first strand of wire starting at 12 inches off the ground. This is not even a deterrent, let alone protection from intrusion. Failure to protect our ongoing ag activities may cause some of our tenants and farming partners to leave, causing financial damages due to lost revenues for fear of increased liability and increased costs. We have some proposals. Per the EIR, amend the fencing plan for both sides of the trail to protect the agriculture within a minimum of a 6-foot-high wire mesh chain link style fencing, add no trespassing signs, right to Farm Act signs, and notification that the trail is subject to closure. Per the EIR, as fumigation, chemigation, and aerial spraying are necessary for pest control. And yes, we do use helicopters to apply materials. The Camillus Ranch needs to be indemnified by the County of Ventura for all damage and injury to the public as a result of the change of use by VCTC, allowing public access, including trespass violations. Due to new food safety regulations and GAP certification, dogs or pets of any kind must be restricted from the trail and no dogs or pets allowed. Signs posted as the fencing must allow wildlife migration as proposed. Ending the trail sooner at 67+00, this would shorten the trail by 400 feet to avoid removing more agriculture in the right-of-way prematurely until an agreement can be met between Caltrans to extend the trail for the next phase. Per the EIR, final landscape plans in agricultural areas shall be reviewed and approved by the Agricultural Commissioner's Office. These plans include the fencing design, redesign, and need to include other appropriate buffers. Per the EIR, a maintenance plan must be adopted for the trail and user facilities to include the following elements: source of funding for maintenance, guidelines for maintenance activities, schedule for maintenance activities, and responsible parties for carrying out maintenance activities. With adequate fencing in place, a gate to close the trail at Center Street every night to reduce vandalism, graffiti, theft, or damage to farm equipment and valuable crops, and potential public exposure to chemicals during nighttime applications. This plan must be adopted prior to construction. Trash receptacles must be added to the plan to keep public trash from blowing into the fields, and the availability of portable restrooms, reducing the chance of the public urinating or defecating along the trail, introducing foodborne illness or disease outbreaks such as Salmonella, E. coli, Listeria, for example. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comments.
Thanks.
Lynn Jensen, please.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Lynn Jensen, representing Ventura County CoLab, the Coalition of Labor, Agriculture, and Business. As has been said, this project is a change of use of the original railroad right-of-way that was required by VCTC with both federal and local funding for the purpose of this public trail. The project is described in the Santa Paula Branch Line Recreational Trail Master Plan completed in 1996 and the EIR, which was certified 13 years ago in the year 2000. The project corridor actually extends for 32 miles across the county from Montalvo to Rancho Camulos, and we are concerned about the implementation of the plan, particularly with respect to the potential impacts on thousands of acres of farmland and the precedent that will be set by this construction contract. The EIR project goals include minimize impacts to adjacent property owners and minimize disruption to adjacent agricultural activities. It has 15 pages dedicated to the importance of mitigating direct and indirect impacts to ag, while recognizing that there are no mitigation measures available to mitigate the loss of prime ag soils, which are significant and unavoidable, according to the EIR. It's estimated that 19 acres are permanently covered by the trail, and the EIR asserts that it's critical to the project to protect as much of the adjacent agriculture as possible. In fact, the EIR prescribes mitigation, encouraging long-term leases and expanded farming within the right-of-way, with agreements to be allowed for all operators, even if they are currently operating in the right-of-way without a lease agreement. So it's pretty clear that they want to keep the agriculture that's there viable. We believe that the engineering plans for Phase 3 do not honor the spirit or the specific recommendations in the EIR. The fencing, signage, security control systems, and preservation of the agricultural crossings, which is also important to ag, prescribed, are extremely important when considering the large scope of this project. Mitigation measures specifically state fencing to protect agricultural operations from trail users shall be designed, installed, and maintained to protect agricultural land from intrusion for the life of the project, and that's specifically stated in the EIR. We believe that the county agencies must fulfill their obligation to communicate with their ag partners along this corridor, working together to reduce the impacts prior to a package being bid out. We believe the county must involve the Agricultural Commissioner's Office in a review of the trail plans for potential impacts to ag, and to review and approve the landscape plans, which is a specific mitigation measure in the EIR. It says the Ag Commissioner must approve the landscape plans. And the maintenance plan must be completed and funded prior to construction of any trails along this corridor. Further, we question the categorical exemption that was used for this Phase 3 project, which quotes 15304, minor alteration to land, applying to this project, which creates 1.2 miles of trail and moves 3,000 cubic yards of dirt. In addition, the EIR is now 13 years old, and mitigation measures should be proposed to considered as what Rob Roy said, the impact to ag with respect to all these new food safety regulations and the GAP certification process, which requires there to be inspections at least once a year of each one of the fields. And we further recommend that dogs be prohibited from these agricultural sections of the trail because it is going to be very difficult to keep them out of the fields if they're allowed in the agricultural sections of these trails. VC CoLab is not in opposition to the Trails project, but we believe that pushing this construction contract to meet a financial funding deadline without protecting this extremely valuable resource is another setback to this important industry, which provides jobs, tax revenue, and quality of life to the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Those are all the public speaker cards I have. I don't know. Henry, do you have any comments on this before I bring Jeff? Jeff, want to come down? Either one, whatever order.
I'd like to hear from Henry, Jeff, and Darren.
Henry, Jeff, and Darren? Which order do you want? Doesn't matter. Okay.
Good morning, Chair Floyd, board members, Mr. Powers. For the record, Jeff Pratt with the Public Works Agency. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, so probably some context is necessary. The EIR was prepared by VCTC, for those of you who don't know. And it's very elaborate, and it covers a number of circumstances: manufacturing, industrial, rural, ag. So there are all sorts of conditions in there that are met as you approach each of those different land types. This project was originally designed, the full length of the project, in 2004, 2005. And since funding wasn't available for that length, it's been split into phases over time. And we're quite aware of the requirements that are in the documents that they talk about. Now, one of the sort of, I guess you could call it a contentious issue, but an issue is the fencing. The fencing is actually 4 feet high, as proposed by the plans. In the document, it says no more than 6 feet high. This project has been scaled back from the original project that was prepared in 2004. It's much narrower. The width of the project proposed take varies between the trail itself is 10 feet wide, the paved portion, and then on the outside, based on topography, the hill, we're right on top of the old rail bed. The fence will go from 2 feet away from the trail to a maximum of 5 feet. That's based on two things: the topography of the top of the rail bed and the desire to stay out of any of the agricultural operations that are there. We've pulled the project back to avoid all ag operations, planted ag operations. Now, there was some storage of materials on the site that we asked be removed, which was part of the ag operation, but it was in the rail bed, the trail area, construction area. The reason the fence is proposed at 4 feet is that we were afraid there would be a tunnel like the EIR says no more or up to 6 feet or no more, and it says no more than 6 feet in another section. So it's not clear how high the fence should be, but it's clear that the purpose of the design of the fence was to allow animal passage through. So that's why it's pipe and wire and not chain link as proposed by the ranch manager. And so if we varied from that, that would be a variance from the EIR and would require an amendment. But we thought 4 feet was a lesser impact and it wouldn't be the tunnel effect because it's so close to the trail. We pulled the project back. It's actually 0.9 miles, as I understand it right now, not 1.2 anymore, and that was to avoid the ag at the end of the proposed project. Now, the funding comes...
Let me ask, is that 400 feet they were talking about?
I believe it is, yes, it is.
Oh, okay.
So the property owner's been notified on this project in 2006, 2009, 2011. The comments we got back from the property owner were received during an on-site meeting with the prospective bidders some months ago. I think it was January, and he delivered a letter that laid out the sort of what he's presented here. That was discussed, and we haven't responded to that. We're going to be working with the property owner on signage. The EIR requires that this thing be in rural areas, that the project be closed at night. So I think it says at dusk. You have to shut it down. So the operator, which would be GSA, will presumably coordinate with someone to shut that. And by someone, I mean probably the sheriff's department or something. There's a number of things that will go into the operation plans, including all the signage. At this point, we hadn't, your board can decide whether they want dog access or not. The dog access, if it were provided, would have the pickup bags, the standard stuff. It would have the signage, or say keep the dogs on a leash, don't let them off, don't let them outside the fencing area, that sort of thing. Let's see, what else was in there? If we put in restrooms, the EIR requires that we connect to a sewer system. Restrooms are not contemplated as this part of the project. That would get quite expensive. But if your board desired it, we do have some contingency money that could be used in that regard. Right now, that's aimed at signage and so forth. So there will be a lot of coordination that goes on, and I think that gets at most of the questions. We're working with the Ag Office to figure out what the pesticide usage is there. Everything we've got from the property records says there's avocados, there's oranges, and there are two, according to the records we've received, organic operations. One is Organic Berries LLC, and the other is Suda Farms or something like that, Suka Farms Organics, and I believe they're growing row crops, including broccoli. And so at this time, the pesticide usage on the project, and we know that can change, and we need to talk to the property owner, but it looks benign in the world of toxicity and so forth. So we'll be working on notification. And then we've also discussed the issue of gates to allow crossing, and VCTC is as the property owner will be talking to, has been talking to the property owner, and will be negotiating that with the property owner. So that's, I think I touched on most of the high points. If you have any other questions related to the project, we can answer those as well.
From my standpoint, if you just sit there and we go through these three that Kathy wanted, it'd be great, because I got some questions to ask you after. Sure. Yeah. Henry, do you want to make any comments, or you want Darren first? Okay.
This is what happens if you sit behind.
Yeah.
I couldn't point back this direction. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Darren Kettle. I'm the Executive Director with the Ventura County Transportation Commission. As all of you are keenly aware, sitting on the Ventura County Transportation Commission, you're familiar with the fact that VCTC is the owner of the Santa Paula Branch Line corridor that extends all the way from effectively Montalvo all the way past Piru to the county line. Currently, that corridor, we have a corridor plan that does absolutely contemplate a dedicated Class 1 bike trail. This project is consistent with this. VCTC awarded funding to this project back in around 2002-2003 timeframe, nearly $1 million of both generally federal funds, but congestion mitigation, air quality funds, as well as federal funding called transportation enhancements. As we have reviewed the project falls within the branch line corridor. It is currently not under farming operations. Through this stretch, we have, I believe the reference was about 1.2 miles of property that we lease to Cumulus Ranch. It's somewhere on the order of about 400,000 square feet. Something thereabouts that VCTC has long leased to the owner. Of course, it was leased through the Southern Pacific Railroad prior to VCTC's ownership, which took place in 1995 or so. This project is being built in segments, and ultimately with the goal to get to Rancho Cumulus. The county's moved forward with this since those allocation of funds were made. And we did reach out to the Cumulus Ranch requesting that they move some of the equipment that is currently on our leased property so that the project could move forward. We did a site visit with the contractor, indicated that most of the construction could take place within the area that is not actively farmed, the area that is owned by VCTC. Contractor believed that they could do that with one exception of some storage equipment. We did send a letter to the Cumulus Ranch requesting that equipment be relocated. It is on leased land by VCTC. Our request was to simply move this for the time during construction. It could be relocated back to the leased land upon completion of the construction. So there's a briefing from a VCTC perspective. Of course, I'll be available for questions, Mr. Chair.
Can I just ask you one question?
Of course.
Because they talked about this maintenance plan, and you told me as I went back to talk to you that this is going to be a county maintenance plan?
Yeah, working with, as Mr. Pratt indicated, General Services Agency, the nature of something along these lines, the fencing, asphalt will require some minor maintenance. The way that we have generally structured all of the bike path projects throughout the county, whether they've occurred within the county unincorporated area or within the local jurisdictions, of course, Santa Paula and Fillmore now have very actively used portions within those communities, as well as the Piru section that is handled by the host community for the purposes of maintenance.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Henry?
Good morning, Chairman Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers. Henry Gonzalez here, Ventura County Agricultural Commissioner. Only quite recently, I think last week is the first I hear about this project, at least in this area. So I'm a bit unaware of all the requirements and what is been laid out already. But in regards to that, I'd like to make a few comments here. In other projects that I've had an opportunity to look at, there's buffers that protect the grower, but also protect the public. And so I don't know what was done here in regards to a buffer. The 300-foot buffer that we usually have, of course, wouldn't work here, but still the concept of protecting the public and the grower exists. In regards to food safety and pesticides, I'll kind of relate them together because both of those issues are always a concern with agriculture and this situation as well. With food safety, it's really difficult to control animals. It's difficult to control people. When you got to go, you got to go. And that protection there that exists for pesticide use is also a concern. And it also protects not only the grower, but it also protects the public from any exposures. And so even though those are organic operators there, which use less toxic materials, nonetheless, those pesticides could still cause illnesses. And so that's always a concern. Another concern would be that...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. You said those pesticides will still cause...
They can still cause an illness, even though they're organic. And relatively benign in comparison to some of the more toxic restricted materials that are used. Nonetheless, they can still cause illnesses and have effects on people. Another concern would be that folks that are unfamiliar with agriculture and what agriculture does would be on that trail. If they're walking, it might not be so much of a concern. If they're riding their bicycles, they might be coming down there pretty fast. And applicators, as they're making their turns with their spray equipment, may not see them fast enough to shut off their booms, and potentially there could be an illness resulting from that. Anyway, those are just some of my thoughts about some of the concerns that I think we need to be aware of, and as we move forward with this project, that those are the things that can happen that I think we want to protect agriculture as well as the people that are going up and down the trail and people that are consuming these products that the growers are producing after the fact. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I just have one question. What was brought up with this new federal requirements of animals and in there? Yeah, pardon?
The food safety?
Yeah, the food safety issue. That's all new in the last few years that have really come in, I guess, because of some of the salmonella and all the things happening. What does that trump what we do, or is there anything in that situation? I mean, what we're hearing is I know you're probably even a little bit more on the idea of what this trail is probably encroaching on the ag, and we'd like to see bigger buffers and all that. But I didn't hear the rest of the people talk that way. What we did talk about is food safety. How do we keep the animals out? How do we... does that federal law trump what we do here a little bit? We have to really focus that issue? I mean, because safety of these farmers are, somebody comes and inspects the properties and that, I mean, I guess I'm getting at, because there was something that sounded like Jeff was talking about the ERI, that animals have to run through the fencing a little bit, and we're trying to keep animals out. Is there certain areas we keep them out based on federal law? Is that what we're doing?
Well, I would defer to county council, but generally federal law trumps state and
I
county.
think state and county, yeah.
And in regards to the animals, the wildlife, they're usually corridors that they prefer for safety reasons. They don't generally like to go up and down through furrows and through fields, but they will if that's where they're
Yeah, they don't like being in the open. They want to be in areas where they can be
in the hidden
areas,
little,
right?
ravines and whatnot, the barrancas.
So it's not as much the wildlife issue, it's more of the domestic issue of animals we're talking about.
They may want to chase a quail that they might see down there. And yesterday I went to the site, and definitely there's quail out there as well as other wildlife. So I can potentially see that a dog might want to chase a quail into the field, and when they have to go, they have to go.
Right, right. I know Jeff has something to say about that.
Oh, the quails go too.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're going to stop that. The whole fence for the whole project is meant for animal passage because we just don't know where they're going to pass.
And that's something we have to do by law or by the EIR? Or
yes, the EIR requires it at this point in time. So it says animal passage, this fence of this type, up to 6 feet. So we're in conformance with all that. So something that I didn't bother to mention, I didn't mention to your board, is that the rail right-of-way is much wider than what we're proposing. If buffers were required, VCTC board would have to do it, but they have the ability within 5 days' notice, the VCTC board, to ask the ag to move back if those buffers are necessary. So that we would have a trail with about a 50 or 60 foot buffer on each side. And but that, because of the benign use, it didn't seem like that was something that we wanted to request, but that was certainly something that could be entered into the conversation.
Okay.
Let me just explore that a little. So the trail could be much wider than
Absolutely.
Right. And the trail could be how wide?
I believe a total of 100 feet for this area. Right.
Right. So VCTC could assert the whole 100-foot buffer.
That's correct.
Right. And instead, VCTC is asserting how much?
We got a 10-foot wide trail and I mean essentially about 14 feet, but the fence is going to vary between 2 and 3 feet from the edge.
So essentially, VCTC sort of representing the public is compromising and trying to pull the public's down.
We working with VCTC to try to minimize the impacts.
Right, and not make the trail any wider than you have to. So you could have the same kind of fencing and just have a buffer so that if somebody threw something over the fence, it'd still be landing on non-ag land by asserting, hey, we're just not going to have any ag there, right? So VCTC basically would be trying to protect VCTC land.
That's correct.
Theoretically, right? Because they're putting their own buffer in on both sides, right? They're just, if the ag owner wants to continue to do the ag operation, they're making that available to them at this point in time.
That's correct.
That's right. Okay, thank you. And could you tell me a little bit more about the fencing?
Well, the fencing it's pipe and wire, and so it's not like a chain link. I mean, if you're reasonably agile, I believe you could just step through it, lift the wire. It's fairly inexpensive. It allows for animal passage at any location. It would be hard to climb. You'd have to crawl through the wires relative to chain link. On our flood control facilities, we have 4-foot chain link, and so you're probably familiar with. And those it's easy to climb, jump over.
Right.
These you'd have to kind of slide through. The EIR, as I recall, allows for split rail or this pipe and wire stuff that were because of the animal passage issue.
Great, thank you.
Well, I guess my only question, Henry, is certainly there is a right to farm, and I agree with whatever posting is necessary. The pesticide drift is under your authority, and you certainly have the regulatory process that addresses that with complaints that might come in, and to handle that. But as has been expressed by the design and by Public Works, is that it's when you speak of a 300 or 150-foot buffer, that's buffers that we do look for in projects where you have intensive high numbers of population, people living in residences, businesses, etc. Not something that is a low-intensive use such as a trail like this. So I don't know that the two equate. This would be my point. But you still have certainly all your regulatory authority regarding any complaints and issues that might come in around any usage on this trail, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. If I could, just one more question. There was a question asked about, and not for you, Henry, for Public Works, as to moving this forward based on some timeline regarding the funding. And maybe this is actually to Darren, but the funding, what is the window on moving this contract forward?
The project has a bit of CMAQ funding coming through the state from the feds that VCTC applied for. The project has to be awarded by the end of the month. We still have 60 days to work out as much, or at a minimum of 60 days to work out other details, and we can ask the contractor to extend their bid. So we have time, and that's why we're coming to you at this point in time.
Okay.
So we could possibly work with, you could sit with the farmer or work with the people trying to
Issues
mitigate
related
some
to
of
crossings, issues related to
signage.
Question on dogs and restrooms. Domesticated animals, dogs. I can't believe anybody would be walking a cat, but dogs and restrooms. We certainly have authority to prohibit dogs in the trail area. And restrooms, I agree that that's a significant cost and issue, and Piru being the closest community where this trail already exists would be the closest community. And at this point, there isn't funding nor complete right-of-way for the trail on the other side of the 126, completed all the way through that I'm aware of. So within 1.2 miles, there is the community of Piru for
So you're
access.
not 5 miles out
Right,
someplace,
you're not 5 miles out. And I don't know, I certainly know within the city limits of Fillmore and Santa Paula, where the trail is complete, you're in a municipal area, and I don't know if they've prohibited dogs on those trails. I doubt that they have, because you're in municipal areas. But I would think that a fair request on this section might be to that we would prohibit domesticated animals in this area for the conditions related to the farming operation and the wildlife corridor. That's would be open to having that discussion.
And then what about the signage that, Henry talks about, the spraying, and what kind of signage do we put up or that protects somebody? I mean, part of this, my only concern is that, okay, the farmer's going to spray today, and then somebody's going to come out and put something at the end of the trail, and then he's not going to spray 4 days later, he's spraying. How do you manage all that? I mean, part of this issue is...
Well, there are multiple operators. I would envision that the ranch manager would coordinate with the operators on the spraying operations, and that's not when that was going to occur, and the trail could be closed at that time. There would be signage, and I can't give you the details, but big rotating fan blades saying, "Don't enter," or it's whatever the ag commissioner says the signs ought to look like.
Yeah, because I don't want to open us up saying, why did you guys put a trail there where people can walk by and spray? As Supervisor Parks, asked Henry, there's some of this stuff, even organics can, when you get anything, even though it's maybe not really harmful, but just taking it in under that much at one time. I guess I'm just trying to figure out, again, it sounds like nobody really was against the trail, so that's not my issue. My issue is how do we don't hurt the farmer, but also he farms on both sides, or these people, so was there plans to have gates to go across so the farmer could get his equipment back and forth, or what do we have on that?
We know there'll be gates. VCTC as the landowner is talking to them. We don't know the number. Right now, we don't show them on the plan because we don't know where they're going to be. But on a pipe wire fence, the gates are a relatively easy thing to install. And not very expensive. So that's something that can happen. Another thing that might be worth noting is that, as I understand it by law, an ag operator can't spray where there might be some chance of traveling member of the public. And the county council, I defer it. But what that really means is that, we're going to have to work together on this. And so the ag operator, the ag branch manager would be, it would be prudent to work with us and letting us know when that shutdown will occur. So I think the possibility for exposure working together would be minimized that way. People can still go under the fence and ignore the warnings and so forth. But
yeah, you have those 6-foot fences. People, if they want to go pick strawberries, they can jump the fence and pick strawberries. We understand that. That's the big thing is just trying to stop the average public from walking out there as much as possible, disrupting this.
On that note, if a 6-foot fence is in this design is no more difficult to cross than a 4-foot fence. And if that's the question that was embedded there. So, we propose 4-foot fences because of their proximity to the trail.
Well, Mike Powers jumped over a 4-foot fence. I don't know if he jumped a 6 foot.
One could step over it.
Sit on that.
But okay, I guess from my standpoint, maybe then if you and Henry could work with the farmer, I guess, to try to mitigate some of these issues and get them worked out, straightened out. Let me ask this. First of all, at the part of where this goes in, was there going to be some kind of a big pipe gate that would stop it when stuff was going on? Did you already have that as part of it?
In the rural, we've got to work out what kind of gate, but and how it would be closed, and that's sort of an issue we'd want to work with TSA, who's closing it, but it says lock gate in the EIR.
Oh, it does. Okay, so you'd have some kind of a gate that, so when this is all going on, the farmer feels comfortable that somebody's blocking that, so they don't have to worry about that kind of thing. Yeah.
And we do that with, flood control channels and the recreational agreements we have with various. It's not uncommon. And then it also says lock gates for the gates that that the ag operator would use to cross the trails.
Right. There's got to be something there that would be. So maybe if I could just, like I said, it sounded like nobody was against doing the project. It was just trying to help the farming community not encroach on what they were doing. So if you can work, if part of it, make a motion to pass this, but is just work with, Henry and the farmer and everybody together to try to mitigate as much. And if some of the fencing, if there's different kinds of fencing that they feel the animals get through but still protects, I don't know. I guess if you, just more communication, but it sounds like you have 60, 90 days after the contract's awarded to deal with this issue and make sure the farmer's comfortable. I can get my equipment across, how I get it across, and what kind of signage. Is that a problem?
Not at all.
And board members, I would ask that that this also be coordinated through my office with the farmer, with the interested parties, to make sure this has been in the public domain. That's
right.
There's no question. It has been there since the VCTC passed this. And we, the county, have a commitment to regional trails. So, an interest of ensuring that we can address as much as possible the agricultural community's concerns in this stretch, we should do so and have adequate signage. But I would like to certainly be brought into that conversation so we can work through the issues.
Good. Does that make pretty clear?
It does, sir.
Yeah, I would just like to say, issues like, are there going to be dogs or not? It's Supervisor Long's office is going to catch that. That's where the people who want to walk their dogs are going to contact you, or the people, if there are dog problems, and if the ag owners are going to contact you. So I think that does make sense. I appreciate you saying we have a commitment to regional trails. We committed this money a long time ago. We have to go forward with this thing, I think, to follow through with this. So I think that's the appropriate way to handle this. Have communications. I don't want to hear on the spur of the moment hamstring these communications or have staff feel like there's a certain, I think staff, just listening to this, I think staff's brought, stuff that makes common sense. There's a difference between a 6-foot and 4-foot fence. Doesn't matter if you can just step through the fence anyway, for example. So I think they're generally making good decisions, but I would support that and have this be coordinated through your office as part of that. So that makes sense.
That sounds good.
Okay, with that direction.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Henry. Yes, Henry?
I have one more bit of information in regards to signage, noticing folks that a pesticide has been applied. that signage is not up all the time when there is a potential hazard. There is a period after a pesticide has been applied during which time that product, those strawberries, that broccoli, cannot be marketed. This is what's called the pre-harvest interval. That period of time when there are still residues of the pesticide in excess of what is considered healthy. There's no signage up at that time. And generally, farmers will time their harvest to coincide with the expiration of that period of precaution. And so there may not be any signage, and yet there could be a pre-harvest interval in effect. So no one will really know that except maybe the farmer.
Henry, I would envision that we could put signs up at appropriate locations throughout this trail, this length of this trail, starting at the beginning and throughout. We'd say signs that would say active farming, pesticide and use, active farming, pesticide and use. Notification to the public, certainly there's no guarantee anywhere in this county, as we have had experiences with other operations, that public won't at sometimes be encountering pesticides, sometimes with full knowledge that they're in an area, sometimes with not. So I would look that there'd be signage that would say something like that, active farming, pesticides and use. And we identify those areas, and I appreciate what you're saying, and that's, very, it is an agricultural operation, so I do appreciate that.
Because to the point, unless somebody goes and grabs that and eats it, that's the problem, isn't it? So if they're hopefully not stealing the farmers, then they're not going to have a problem with the pesticides. But that's true. But I appreciate those comments, but I think Supervisor Long is right. We should put those signs along, pesticide use, and so if somebody decides to steal a strawberry or something, at your own risk, that kind of a thing. But good point. We could do that. Okay. Then we have a motion, and I think
Mr. Pratt has something he'd like to add.
Or you were just down to.
Given the difficulties we've had in trying to assess the information we've seen about what's out there, we have started looking for something called a pest control advisor, and that we will be preparing a plan that I think will address all of those issues in conjunction. So I didn't know if you need that piece of information.
Well, while most of our conversation has been talking about the potential impacts of the mix of farm and bike path, I think that we are, really fortunate to have this facility that we're going to be able to put in here. I just think it's something that our county has been looking forward to, the Transportation Commission has been looking forward to, and it is kind of a precedent, and I hope that all this can be worked out so that we can continue to do these great public facilities so people can go running with their dog if we allow dogs on leashes, or people can ride their bikes, and different ways of getting around than just getting in a car. It's wonderful for recreation and for commuting. I'd love to be able to see this put other places in the county, so I'm very interested to see that we come up with some really good ways that we can make this work. So just thank everyone for their input, and I look forward to riding on this.
Yeah. And I, too, appreciate the conversation. Appreciate everybody coming. We don't want to, somebody's been farming for 174 years. We don't want to disrupt that ability to continue to farm. And appreciate you willing to work through and work with everybody to make this work. So thanks, everybody on there.
And I thank you, too. I think there's, with direction to staff, and that we'll work through these issues. The right-of-way is there. It's been identified. I think the staff has done pulling back the fence line to allow for some buffer. And I think with some operational things, we can make this work. I am a dog owner, have been for years. I love dogs. Please don't give me the wrath of dogs here. But I will be looking at whether or not this stretch in what is clear rural ag operation area is appropriate, even for, unfortunately, we have humans who own dogs who don't keep them on leashes. So I really want to take a stronger look at that piece of it. So thank you.
And certainly, however you decide, you can have those, dogs must be on leash, and you definitely want them on a leash. Not only that one might stray off and defecate on farmland, but also because you don't want a dog running in your bike path. you know, so
Yeah.
it's definitely, you want them on leashes if you do
I
have
think
them.
the encounters between that should be looked at seriously. And, I'll ask those who have trails in their district, what kind of restrictions do you have?
Great. Well, again, thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate you doing it. And Paul Grosko, it looks like you got another trail to maintain, so. He's looking for one. He needed something else to do, right?
And my, Martine Hernandez is sitting in the back there, Mr. Freeman, let's see if we can coordinate a meeting so we can sit down and work through this. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Okay. All right.
Yeah, well, we'll highlight it in a minute.
All right. We do have quick public comments. I got one card. I got Mark Packowitz. Packowitz. Thank you, sir, for waiting.
No problem.
Hopefully you're excited about the trail, too.
I am.
Good.
Very interesting. May it please the chair, members of the board. I had an issue and I debated what to do, and I decided to do this. An employee works for the county, had an opportunity for a promotion. They tested, they got promoted. Everybody was told in the department that this person was promoted. And then someone decided, okay, we shouldn't have promoted that person. So the employee went to the Civil Service Commission and said, how did this happen? And at the Civil Service Commission, representatives of the county are there. And they're usually fairly high-ranking representatives of the county. And this employee has been an employee for the county for a long time. And don't take my word that they're good. The employee from the county said, there is nothing in any record to indicate that her work in the positions in which she is held has been anything less than exemplary. Her reputation and her integrity, as she indicated, at least I've heard nothing from within the county government, anything contrary to what she says. So we're not talking about a disgruntled employee here. We're talking about an exemplary employee that works for you. That employee then was informed that the director of HR would be involved in the decision-making process. And the employee said, well, I have a concern about that because the person who applied for the job that I got and didn't get it is the daughter-in-law of the director of HR. So it would seem that there's a conflict. To which a very high-ranking employee said in moments after making the laudatory comments, Mr. Chair, yes, I withdraw my prior remarks. Can you be more specific? Which remarks? As to integrity. Now, how it is that an employee, an exemplary employee who works for you, who has high integrity, could lose integrity because she asked a question and expressed a concern is appalling to me. And I know that this board has had grand jury reports about bullying, and at one point the board said we disagree with the perception that such conduct is pervasive and is not addressed by current policy. You said that you have the opportunity, employees have the opportunity to go to HR, to go to labor relations, and the reality is on a day-to-day basis here, people are retaliated against. People are turned on just like this, and there is a tape of it. I have the tape and I read the transcript, and you have the opportunity to read the transcript and listen to the tape as well. And understand that this should not be tolerated by you, but it does happen. And I bring this to your attention because there are times when it seems that based on some of the acts, it is that this board as a group votes on, that it seems that there is a belief that the people who have your ear in closed session and tell you that there is no retaliation, tell you that there is no harassment, tell you that there is no bullying, are those very people that may be doing that. And so I would just suggest that when people come to you, whether they're jurors, whether they're grand jurors, or whether they're employees who have by somebody been labeled disgruntled, that you pause and you consider the alternative, that maybe some of these people who come to you are right. And that's why I'm here, so that you understand and you know and that this situation exists. It is digitally recorded. It is available. I actually know that someone from the county already has it. Whether it ever makes it to you, I don't know. And I would like to use the last moments of my time to say, since I don't want to date myself, but since I came here in the late 80s, maybe very early 90s, I have dealt with the clerk, and I have found her to be incredibly professional, and I will miss coming here and seeing you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Packowitz, I just want to ask a couple quick questions. I haven't heard anything about this, but so this was a civil service position. Somebody tested on, and they were told that they were going to be promoted.
It was actually a promotional position
Testing.
within the an employee
Right.
sought to promote within their department to another level.
And so they took the test and then were told that they had been the person that the test had identified as the
Yes.
person to be promoted.
Yes.
Thought they were being promoted, and then told that they were not going to be getting the promotion.
And then they went through the entire process, and then they were told, sorry, you don't meet the qualifications. Sorry, we didn't realize that when we did the written test, the oral test, or any way along. Sorry that we published that you got promoted, but we've changed our mind, and you're not eligible. And so that's how they, and then what they were informed was that their remedy, if you will, was to seek a review by the Civil Service Commission.
And can you tell me what the Civil Service Commission's decision was?
They decided that the employee didn't have enough information to cause them to change the result.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you, Chair Foy. Just to respond to your comments real quick, this is the first I've heard of this issue, and just let Mr. Packowitz know our office will follow up with you and get more information and get back to the board and you on this as well. But I can assure you that the leadership of this county is very committed to an open work environment where anybody, any employee here can raise problems and have them addressed. So, but thank you for coming.
All right, well, thank you. We'll go on to board comments. Supervisor Long?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to submit this list to adjourn in memory, and I'll do that quickly since I know our time is short here. I'd like to let the board know that this weekend, March 23rd and 24th, speaking of rails and trails, the Santa Clara River Valley Railroad Historical Society, Inc. has the Rail Festival all weekend in Fillmore, and it is the 20th anniversary of the Rail Festival, and again, it's this entire weekend. Hours are 9 to 5 each day. Admission and parking are free, and it's always a wonderful event. Weather's supposed to be great, so take an opportunity if you like trails, like the outdoors, like this, go out and check it out. And then one last thing I'd like to just comment on. I attended on Saturday night the National Charity League Juniors Boots and Bells event. National Charity League Juniors, and I know the board knows this, have adopted us in the way of Ventura County Medical Center specific to the Children's Oncology Program. They have, probably by the end of this event, will have raised close to $1 million for us and for our hospital. It was a excellent turnout. Certainly our leadership of the hospital all attended. Our CEO was there, and I'll be bringing them into the boardroom at a future date to get an update from them and to thank them for their outstanding work that supports our wonderful oncology center. And there's a video that they produced that I'd like to bring into the boardroom that you bring your Kleenex when you see it. It was marvelous, and it was just a great event. I was happy to be able to attend. Thank you. That's it.
Supervisor Parks?
Thank you. I, along with other supervisors, attended the JLUS, the Joint Land Use Study that's being conducted, and that interestingly enough, Ventura County Transportation Commission is the lead on this one, dealing with land use. And I just say interestingly enough because we can't seem to merge VCOG and VCTC together, which is kind of putting land use and transportation together. But there's the Transportation Commission working with land use issues. And this is a very important study because it's an attempt to ensure that we can have our naval base for a long time in our county by not having mixed uses that would encroach on their ability to do what they do out there. And a lot of that has to do with their air flights too, that they don't disturb noises. And right now with agriculture land, that's a great buffer. And so I think a lot of the emphasis is to keep that buffer and see how we can do better to ensure that buffer. Also was able to attend the local government commission meeting in Yosemite, and this meeting was very refreshing to hear about ways of making urban areas more desirable without the redevelopment agencies that were so prevalent, but also some great information on energy conservation, engaging communities, private-public collaborations for economic vitality, increasing local farm to local plate options, and urban design to stimulate innovation in the workplace. So it was a great conference. And also had my office conference room used by the CHP and attended the meeting there where they're doing a grant with the DUI grant task force. And this is going to be along 101, so we'll have some more officers available to ensure we don't have DUIs. And even if you don't have a DUI, when they stop you, they're going to give you some education about that. So I think that's a great program, and they are seeing the effects in less accidents, and that's important. I also at this time would like to close and honor the people on my list, and very unfortunate to have to announce one very loved individual here at the county, Irene King. Irene has passed away. She was a very active member in the city of Thousand Oaks, from everything from schools and PTAs, and she was actually one of the Dona Triumphos with the Triumpho Ball. That's associated with the Stagecoach Museum. But we know her most as one of the charter members of NAMI, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill. And she was just such a strong advocate for people with a mental illness. She started a family support group in Thousand Oaks. And she was just such a caring woman, and spoke and came before us. I know it wasn't easy for her, but it was something she felt very passionate about, and her memory will live for a long time because she made us very aware of the plight of people with mental illness, and just so sorry to see her go.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask the board to adjourn in memory of the people on this list, and just focus my comments on one thing that's happened this past week, and that's there have been two opportunities for me to deal with the Boys and Girls Club, one at the Wedgwood Banquet Center. And this is a great reminder. I mean, they had their annual Power of One breakfast, but there are 3,000 youth in just the greater Ventura area. They try to service 3,000 youth. $1.4 million is the budget that they need, and it's every year they've got to raise that nut, and it's getting tougher and tougher because institutional funding is dropping. It used to be 50% of the Boys and Girls Club's budgets. Now it's 30%. That means the community has to step up even more to try to pull that off. But it was a great breakfast and good energy in the room. It was nice to be there. And then this morning at 7:30, I got to go to the last board meeting of the Greater Ventura Boys and Girls Club, where Diane Correnda is going to be serving as the executive director. So I was able to present her with a resolution from the Board of Supervisors this morning, and she is a force to be reckoned with, and she's somebody that we'll really miss. I mean, she did a great job. She opened up the Boys and Girls Clubs in Satakoy, three Boys and Girls Clubs in disadvantaged areas. The first Boys and Girls Club in the country to be opened up in a public housing project. And she was great at training her staff, getting them out to national training and stuff. So she leaves the organization in really good shape. The only other thing I just want to remind the board members, if you're interested in nominating people from your district for the Climate Change Awards, the deadline is April 7th. I passed out the nomination forms to you last week, but you can also, if you don't have those, you can just download them. You can get them from my office, but it's a very easy application form, very, very simple to fill out. So they're due April 7th will be the deadline for that. So again, love to have nominations from around the county if we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I too would like to adjourn in memory of the people on this list. And I wanted to begin with thanking Charles Schwabauer. We've seen Charles come here before us. He is deciding to step down from the Ag Policy Committee, which he's been on for years and years and years. And that, Mr. Schwabauer and his whole family have such a commitment to this county and everything they do. So just want to thank him for his service. I also want to thank Chief Lorenz. Item number 11, we had our consent item for the negotiating with your truck that you had, that I think it was a Ford 350 that you were doing, and you could have put the auction, maybe got a few bucks, but you worked and found what government, and it ended up, Simi Valley SWAT ended up with it, and they really appreciate it. So I thank you guys for doing that. It's good government, working to find ways to save everybody money, and it worked good for them. So I thought that was very good. Wanted to make sure you got commended for that. And then also I saw the article in the paper, you probably all saw, about the state and the slow growth possibilities for us. But, some of the policies we do, there's no question, have an effect on what happens in this state. And I just hope that we here in this county do everything we can do to make sure our policies do not hinder the business community. I know that's been a big issue for the CEO's office, that we are going to be business friendly. And the state may make it tough on us, but we'll try to do as best we can to make sure the businesses thrive in this county, which I think is a great avenue for us to drive and people jobs. The other thing is, I will not be here next week. I will be out of the country, enjoying my 30th anniversary. So thank you. 30 years. Somebody's put up with me for 30 years. These guys only had to do this for about 6 or 7 here.
We need to bring her in here for a resolution.
Amazing woman.
Really? Supervisor Parks, they didn't say that about, never mind. All right. So we've got a few regular items we can do here after I take that abuse, so that's good. Not that I don't give it out every once in a while. What do you mean by that, Mr. Powers?
Oh, no.
I don't stir it up, do I?
Yeah, just a little.
Just a little. All right, we'll go to number 24.
Good morning, Sheriff Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers, Barry Fisher Healthcare Agency. Here before you to get approval for 2 appointments to our Ventura County Health Care Plan, similar to the Oversight Committee for the hospital. It's required for our Knox-Keene license. They focus on quality oversight, peer review, and utilization management. And the first is a reappointment of Kathy Tiscarino, and the second is an appointment of Ralph Reyes to 3-year terms. I'm available for any questions.
Move the recommended action if I could get the motion on my screen.
And I'll second if I can.
There we go. Got it.
Boy. It's a rough crowd today, Roberta. And you want this job? There you go. Okay, number 25.
Good morning, Chair Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers, Roberta. Good morning. Again, this is Rigoberto Vargas. I'm Public Health Division Manager and Acting Public Health Director. And the item before you is to ask for your permission for the Public Health Director to enter into an MOU with the Oxnard School District for us to be able to deliver a lot of the program activities that recently we come before you to accept several grants. And one of the sites where we would deliver such activities under those grants is the Oxnard School District, and they all relate to healthy eating, active living efforts, such as cooking demonstrations and classes and workshops and sessions on gardening and so on. And so we'd like for your permission to be able to enter into this MOU, and I'll take any questions if you have any.
Great to have grant funds to do that, and it goes towards helping to end obesity and other traits that will lead to higher medical bills in the future.
Yes, thank you.
And affect quality of life.
Absolutely agree and second the motion on this. You're doing a great job, Rico, and all the work that we're doing across many collaboratives, but to focus on obesity and high cholesterol and high blood pressure, these are all things that we know with nutrition and health education can change the course there. So I'm pleased the school district's in agreement and moving ahead to do this collaboratively.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. I'd like to ask the board to reappoint Ed Buckle to the Mobile Home Park Rent Review Board. I'll make that motion.
I think you need to revote.
Don't give me that look.
On that last one. Right, well, assuming we're on item 26.
Yes, we are.
I am Stephen Hintz, Ventura County's treasurer, tax collector. Chairman Foy, members of the board, Mr. Powers. I am here today to nominate Scott M. Blau of Simi Valley to serve as a member of the Treasury, as a public member for the Treasury Oversight Committee. I have attached a paragraph summarizing Mr. Blau's career pattern. And the board may recall that I came suggesting that I needed to increase the membership of the board for several reasons. Mr. Blau does not exactly fit my criteria for diversity that I was looking for, although he is young, which will be different, and he is from Simi Valley, which will be different. As you know, or may know, I had my heart set on a Scandinavian woman, but she suffered a change of career plans and is not available to serve on this board at this time. So my nomination is for Mr. Blau.
I thought you were able to get it right in the right time, but no.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I was on a review panel for this kind of position when I was with the city of Thousand Oaks, and they advertised, and we got a tremendous amount of highly experienced individuals for this. And I'm just wondering, did you go through any kind of process where it became an open recruitment where, experts throughout the county could apply? And, it's also good feedback to be able to interview them and hear what they have to say.
I put it on the office's website. I announced it at a public meeting in all the public meetings that I went to, which consisted of Simi Valley and Santa Paula during the time period. I put it on the office's Facebook page and my own. I notified the board that I wished they would offer me assistance in finding this person. It was a very small group of people that applied.
Will there be more openings in the future? Because there are a lot of people in our county, that have some expertise, and some are, professors at the universities. And I just would like to be able to, next time we have an opening for a public member, to maybe do a press release and get it out there so we can increase the pool in which you choose.
The size of the committee is not necessarily limited, and I would like to have more people on it, I think.
Great.
In a way, the more the merrier, and I have a couple of other personnel issues that I'm focusing on after this, and then I will open it up more and find out what methods I may have to publicize the need
Great.
for applicants.
And my office would be glad to help to get that information out, because I do find there are a lot, particularly, there's a lot of folks out there that are interested, and it's great to have people with good experience being able to advise us on our investments.
Yeah, I think she's right. I mean, we sit on that together, and so if there's an opportunity, you have somebody, that'd be great. I think it'd be a good opportunity, so.
I
Okay.
am hopeful.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Thank you, sir. Thanks for waiting.
Thank you.
All right, so we have our first time certain. We got 5 minutes. How about if we take a quick 5-minute break? No correspondence? No?
All right, good.
That's it. Thank you.
Susan Lacey, and we have some comments as we read these resolutions and all of that. But thank you very much. It's going to be a great morning here celebrating these folks.
So now we would like to invite former supervisors, pathfinders, Maggie Erickson Kildee and Susan K. Lacey, to please come up to the podium. Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Look, you don't get to speak yet. You don't get to speak yet.
These are supervisors. They speak all the time.
I'm going to start by addressing in the resolution, and Supervisor Bennett and I again will share this. Ventura County residents will join women and men around the world during the month of March to celebrate National Women's History Month. Observed under the 2013 theme, Women Inspiring Innovation Through Imagination, celebrating women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, which honors generations of women who throughout America history have used their intelligence, their imagination, their sense of wonder, and their tenacity to make extraordinary contributions to the STEM field and many others. So whereas this March and every March hereafter, the Women's History Month will hold a particular significance to Ventura County residents, as the Ventura County Board of Supervisors here and hereafter, hereby, forever, name Women's History Month in Ventura County in honor of our very own two pioneering female politicians, Maggie Erickson Kildee and Susan K. Lacey. Now, whereas we declare this, and again, this History Month, paying tribute to Maggie and to Susan, the first two women elected to the board, it was through their efforts that they have exemplified being leaders, not only by securing a place at the table in local elected office, but also in working tirelessly to create a more fair and just society for all of us. Former Ventura County Supervisor Maggie Erickson Kildee, a longtime public servant, earned her master's degree in education from Cal Lutheran University and has resided in Camarillo since 1966. She worked for 10 years as a public school teacher and administrator for the Pleasant Valley School District before being voted into office in 1980. That's 33 years ago. 1980. That's to tell you I can add and subtract. Maggie was elected to represent District 3 on the Ventura County Board of Supervisors 4 consecutive times, and in 1992 served as the first ever woman chair of the board, before retiring at the end of 1996. Throughout the duration of her 16-year tenure on the board, Maggie embodied the role of supervisor by supporting the advancement of health, welfare, and public safety for all residents. Her legacy is commemorated by her passion for health care. As chair of the Medical Oversight Committee, Maggie guided the medical center from a deficit operation to an enterprise system serving the mandates of health care for the indigent population. Today, a very strong enterprise system. Maggie also pioneered healthcare forums, which brought together administrators, providers, and advocates. Her strong leadership on the board also led to the development of the county's Greenbelt agreements between cities and the first in the state agricultural lands preservation program, protecting land use and zoning rights. Since leaving office, Maggie has incorporated her love and her enthusiasm for the arts into community service by co-founding Studio Channel Islands Arts Center and serving on their board of directors. And in 2005, an annual gift for art education was dedicated, and it's called the Maggie Kildee Fund, established in her honor. Supervisor Bennett, you're up.
Thank you very much. Susan K. Lacey, former special education teacher, holding a master's degree in special education from Cal Lutheran University, was elected to the Ventura Unified School District Board in 1973. And I see that her campaign manager and husband, Ed, is here. And he served as her campaign manager all the way through 5 terms being elected to the Board of Supervisors. But on the Ventura Unified School Board, she upgraded textbooks, strongly supported affirmative action programs, and upgraded the morale of teachers at the Ventura Unified School District. In 1980, she was elected to the Ventura County Board of Supervisors representing District 1 and was successfully re-elected 5 times. A few of her accomplishments, and just a few, we don't have everything listed here. She was instrumental in getting funding and support to open the medical facility located in Ventura's poorest neighborhood. That's in 1983, the West Ventura County Medical Clinic that we have down on the avenue. Championing care for the mentally ill, including working with State Senator Kathy Wright to make the Ventura model the template for the statewide delivery of mental health services, the construction of the mental health inpatient unit, and the development of the Children's Mental Health Program, which allows courts, schools, foster homes, and psychiatrists to work together to treat disturbed children. And I know we have Steve Ellison here who's going to want to talk some about Susan's role with Casa Pacifica here in a bit. Securing medical services for needy teenagers through a countywide program to which professionals donate $500,000 to services annually. The successful development of Casa Pacifica and its programs that create a safe place for children. Because of her recognized leadership on children's issues, Susan Lacey was selected by the State Senate as an inaugural member of the California First 5 Commission serving statewide. She played a key role in defeating the effort to build the Weldon Canyon landfill and the adoption of many county land conservation policies, including the agricultural zone, green belts, and consistent support for the guidelines for orderly development. Since leaving office at the end of 2000, Susan has remained very active in community programs, and particularly programs that strengthen children and families. And so it's a great pleasure for me to be here as part of this celebration. Back to Kathy.
And as you heard from Supervisor Bennett, the life of these 2 pioneering women, their service, 16 years, 20 years, can't be captured in one resolution. There are many, many things we do today that the foundations were a result of their excellent work. I tried to do a search on, in 1980, how many females held public office. We've made strides, and then we've taken a few steps backwards, but we continue to make strides, and it's because women are willing to step up and to lead and to have a seat at the table and to take leadership roles that inspire so many other women here forward. And I hope that this recognition, establishing this today, will continue to be a model for many women in our county who see the opportunity, who might have that inspiration and that love for public service. So we're going to wrap this up, and before you speak, I understand there's a couple people here who also wish to speak. So we're going to have you still stand there and hope that you can do all that. So here, now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ventura County Board of Supervisors hereby proclaims March as Maggie Erickson Kildee and Susan K. Lacey Women's History Month in Ventura County, commends both women for their selfless dedication to serving our county and their invaluable contributions toward the advancement of gender equity.
Thank you. If I may too, being the other woman up here and happy to be here, I just really want to thank you for your contributions. What surprises me most is that how could it have only been you two and not 50 years before that we had some females up here. So it doesn't seem long enough ago that we are honoring the the 2 women who are first on the Board of Supervisors here. We had another first with John Zaragoza. I don't think we had another Hispanic on the Board of Supervisors like in 150 years or something. So tremendous opening of that glass ceiling, and also being there to show other women that they too can, like we have, be members of the Board of Supervisors, be leaders in our communities and in our government, and who knows also have a woman president soon too, hopefully. And I just want to conclude with thanking you for your contributions. And you hear the long lists that were read. You made a significant difference. You leave a wonderful legacy. And I truly think part of it is gender related. That is because of what you were interested in, the concerns that you had that brought forward some amazing things that I don't think otherwise would have come to fruition. So thank you for that.
Okay. Do we have speakers?
Steve, you want to come up? And I know you got a couple comments you'd like to make about these ladies.
And there will be a reception following this. I know all of you want to say some things to both Maggie and Susan, but in the interest.
No, I'm happy to be here. Both of these terrific women, their photograph, along with 3 other members of the Board of Supervisors, is on our wall in our administration building, recognizing them. The Ventura County Board, back in the day, this would have been late 80s, early 90s, was really instrumental in kicking off a tremendous public-private partnership with a $4 million grant that went toward a capital campaign to build out Casa Pacifica, along with about $5 million from the private sector. So my understanding, I want to say a couple things about Susan, who also served on the board of Casa Pacifica and served as board president for a number of years. And my understanding is that Susan, shortly after she was elected to the Board of Supervisors here in Ventura County in the mid-'80s, convened a brown bag lunch with a few county folks and some private sector folks who were judges and people in the dependency court system who were interested in trying to do something about foster kids, and especially around shelter care. And that really was the seeds of Casa Pacifica. Since we opened in 1994, we've served about 12,000 Ventura County children and youth. And we have a growing alumni association. We are just honored, really, and privileged to be in the position that we are, to be able to help the vulnerable children of Ventura County. We owe a tremendous debt, especially to Susan Lacey. I want to read just a brief comment from Chuck Cohen, who also is a past president and is kind of representing the leadership of Casa Pacifica. He says, he asked me to read this. Board of Supervisors, the recognition proposed for Maggie and Susan is not only well-deserved, but provides an incentive to all of us to strive to serve as they have. All of the citizens of this special county have benefited from their extraordinary vision, energy, and selflessness. And he goes on to say he regrets that he couldn't be here himself. I also wanted to read a plaque, a dedication. We had some training in clinical space on campus that in 2000 we opened, and we dedicated it to Susan Lacey. And I want to read from the plaque. Dedicated to the Honorable Susan Lacey, Ventura County Supervisor, Casa Pacifica Board Member, and inspirational founder, whose vision, passion, and strength inspired citizens throughout Ventura County to create a crisis care and treatment center for vulnerable yet valuable children and their families. May her unwavering dedication to these children be an inspiration to all who enter here. Thank you, Susan.
Very nice. Mr. Powers wanted to say a quick few words here. And
just
then
very few words, just real quick. I was so excited when I heard that this was going to happen, and I just wanted to say thank you to both of you. I remember when I started here some 21 years ago, and the two things that stick out to me is your graciousness and your passion. And your passion for just relentless commitment to your causes to provide. You heard the healthcare services that you provide, but that applied to all the services in the county, social services for the underserved and people facing barriers. So you've just been very inspiring for me personally. So I just thank you for that. And I want to recognize Mr. Wittenberg as well, Richard Wittenberg, who's here, who was your CEO during that time. So
Richard.
We have to stick together here, Richard, right? So it's a great day. Thank you very much.
Now, let's invite Maggie and Susan back up to say a few words, and then all those who are here in support of this, we're going to try and do a group photo, so we'll ask you to come up and kind of gather around if we can. Does that work? Okay. All right, that's fine. Susan and Maggie, please. Yeah.
If you'd like to, you can come sit here again and talk that way.
Would you?
Do you want to come sit up here? We got a little different technology.
See?
These are gracious women.
They are humble women,
Having a
too.
little discussion over who's going to speak alphabetical order. Alphabetical order. First of all, I would just like to thank all of you for this honor. It's a very big one, and I thank you for that. But more than that, I thank you for carrying on the things that boards of supervisors in this county have done. And I think those boards who came before us, those of you who have been serving since Susan and I were here, you have carried on some of those same good things, and that's what makes me very proud to live in this county. So thank you for that service. And just incidentally, thank you to Roberta. I can't believe that she's retiring, but it's nice to see you still here today, Roberta. I think that a lot of thanks goes to, and credit goes to, the women who came before us, even though they weren't serving on the Board of Supervisors. There were women serving on city councils at state and federal levels. And I think they deserve a great deal of the credit for where we were. I can remember when we were running for office, people talked about, is it time to elect a woman? And they weren't really sure that it was. But 2 women, which one should we elect? We certainly can't do 2. But they did. Good credit to the people in this county. And you talked about steps forwards and backwards. There was a time when there were 4 women sitting there and 5 women on the planning commission.
Right.
So I think we're beginning to reach the point where it maybe doesn't matter so much about whether you're a man or a woman. However, I would say to those women who may be following, or to younger women, to remember that it's really important to make your own choices. Don't let somebody else tell you that because you're a woman, you can do certain things or can't do certain things. It's important to make your own choices. And if you are in a place of where you can serve, it's important to remember to care about the people that you serve, to have compassion, and to take that feminine side that brings compassion to all of the things that you do. And I think that's one of the things that we see happening, and that makes a difference in what I did here, in what I do now with Studio Channel Islands. It's so exciting to see that whole art community coming alive, and the community beginning to recognize the value of art in our business world, in everything that we do. Just this morning at the Chamber of Commerce, they were talking about right and wrong answers, and how sometimes there aren't right or wrong answers. There's the right answer for this situation. And then you have to know why. And that's what artists begin to do. They realize that if something goes wrong, it isn't lost. It means rethinking, recreating, making it work for the situation that you're in. So thank you for this honor. Thank you, Kathy, for making me look good when I was in office. I couldn't have done it without the staff, some of whom are also here. Barbara's here. I don't know if any other staff people are here from my office. But I couldn't have done it without Kathy and Barbara making me look good, and thank you for carrying on so well with what you do.
Thank you, Maggie.
I'm very tempted to say I agree, but I can't. If I lose my voice, I will stop. I want to thank you for the honor. I think the honor, honoring us, is for all the women. And that's now and in perpetuity. I love that word. I do have to recognize one person. Edward's already been recognized, but Joan Province from my staff is here.
Hey,
and
Joan.
I'm almost certain that she did most of the work. The Commission for Women. So I just wanted to recognize her. It really is in many ways easier to be over there and not here. You go through life and you make choices and you hope you make the best choices. But the best thing I ever did was to choose the staff, as Maggie said. You can't operate, you can't do anything without expertise. And it used to just drive me crazy when somebody would come in and say, I've got to meet with you on this land use issue. And I go, sure you don't want to meet with the guy who knows something? I mean, he can actually help you. I'll say nice things to you, but it's the truth.
So true.
And it's nice to see Roberta. I thought when I read about your retirement that you would be gone. And I was so happy that you're here. I just want to say one final thank you. Oh, I know one thing I did want to say. I don't know how many of you were around when we used to have a Broadway where there's now a Macy's. I was there for lunch the day after we won election, and they had these brown booths-like things, and so you kind of were sitting with somebody you didn't really know. And this lady was having a conversation with her. It must have been about a 9-year-old girl. And she said, now do you see what I've been telling you? They elected 2 women to the Board of Supervisors last night. You don't have to be a nurse, you can be a doctor. So thank you again. And I did want to thank all the present and past members of the Women's Commission, because they've kept it alive, kept it going, kept it fresh, and that's really a good thing to do, and will help it go into the next century. Or we're in the next century.
Decade?
I've been out of here for a while. So thank you again. It's a real special honor.
Why don't we move them in front of the building?
Which way to get face?
This is a good spot up here. Come up here.
Hey, Rich? Yes.
Oh, that's better. All right.
Hey, Rich, did you get us to? Yes.
Have you guys come back? We're going to do a close-up picture. We're going to...
Yes? All right. We're going to come back to order. And talking about women, we didn't realize, Christine, the first woman auditor controller in the county's history. Yay. Okay, go. All right. We got Mr. Bennett. You've got an item here.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is the item here is a presentation of a resolution proclaiming March 2013 as National Social Work Month in Ventura County. And I'm going to ask a number of people to come down. I know Barry Zimmerman from HSA is here. Laura McAnees, a child welfare social worker and supervisor. Rachel Flores from SEIU. Rachel would, I think she might be out. There she is, right? And then I know we have, how many social workers do we have here in the audience? Would you stand up, please? All right. Great. We're going to ask all of you to come down for the picture when we do this picture here, but we won't burden you with having to stand in front the whole time while we're talking. I'd like to briefly read this resolution and then turn it over for comments. But this is a proclamation of March 2013 National Social Work Month in Ventura County. Social workers are positive change agents who dedicate their careers to helping people transform their lives or improving environments that make such progress possible. The primary mission of social work is to enhance human well-being and help meet the basic needs of all people, especially the most vulnerable. For over 100 years, social workers have helped America's leaders weave the nation's social safety net. Every day, social workers address the emotional, psychological, economic, and or physical needs of millions of people. Social workers help clients use their strengths, resilience, and self-advocacy to navigate life's changes. Social workers help people function better in their environments, improve their relationships with others, and solve personal and family problems through a wide range of psychosocial services. Social workers assist individuals and families in every stage of life from all communities. Social workers advocate for fairness and access to resources that benefit the most people. Social work is currently one of the fastest growing professions in the United States. Social workers are employed in many different organizations and industries, including private and public agencies, hospices and hospitals, schools and universities, businesses and foundations, military branches, and veteran centers, as well as national and local public elected offices. Whereas social workers celebrate the courage, strength, and determination of the human spirit and work to empower others to hope, dream, and believe in their own potential. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors takes great pleasure in proclaiming March 2013 as National Social Work Month and calls upon all the residents to join with us in honoring social workers this month. So, Barry, I'd like to turn it over to you.
Yeah, we're going to first hear from Laura. She's kind of the spokesperson for all our social workers and give you an idea of what they do. And we recognize that there are many out that working today that could not be here that are well deserved of the recognition by the board that are dedicated to what they believe in and what they do for our community to make it a better place. And so I'll turn the time over to Laura, then conclude.
Okay, good morning. First, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to recognize social workers in our community and the important contributions that they make. As I prepared my comments today, I reflected on the reasons why I chose the profession of social work. Although there are many, probably one of the most important is my fundamental belief that social workers empower and strengthen the community. Whether we are working with families or individuals, children or seniors, the work that we do really truly makes a difference every day in the lives of the populations we serve due to their vulnerability. As a social worker, I have seen people at their best and I have seen people at their worst. But I've never ceased to be amazed at the human being's capacity for endurance and courage. I've had the privilege of serving the community as a child welfare social worker for 12 years, currently as a supervisor with the department. And although there are many challenges with that work in particular, any single success can have so much value that it overturns any of the challenges that we experience. I believe that it takes a unique person to be a social worker, someone who is patient and caring, someone who understands the value of empowerment, and most importantly, someone that is compassionate. I feel honored to have lived and worked in a community with some of the greatest social workers, some of which are here today. If they would take a minute to stand up. And again, as Mr. Zimmerman mentioned, many of the workers who are out in the field right now working in the community. I just want to thank you again for your recognition and the acknowledgement of the county social workers. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and you're a good speaker. And I do want to add on a personal note, social workers are the glue that holds so many programs together here that are essential to the county's functioning and the county's mission and stuff. And we recognize that, and just know that when you're in there fighting that battle day in and day out, just know that it is something that is not unnoticed by those of us that really want those programs to be successful and know that you're the key link to making that happen. So thank you.
Yeah, I would agree and echo those comments. I thought it was very fitting that we had the recognition prior of Susan Lacey and Maggie Kildee, because many of the policies that they worked on are foundational activities that we enjoy the benefits of today, that enrich our activities and allow us to do many things for the benefit of families and the community. And I thought that was very, very fitting. We recognize Rachel Flores and SEIU, who's very active in supporting our social workers. They care for them, they want the best for them, and we appreciate their support and strength associated with our organization. If I would just conclude, I do agree that social workers are unique, and they add a lot of vitality to our organization. They're very They don't shy away from making a comment or expressing their opinion, which is a wonderful thing, and it helps us to improve on what we're trying to do and better the community. But I was thinking, what could how I could describe it. 4 words I could say is that a social worker is courageous, strong, compassionate, and dedicated. And that's the quality and the class of individuals we have within our organization that serve the community day in and day out, oftentimes unrecognized, but have lasting impacts to the individuals and families that they come in contact with. And we surely appreciate them, and the community is better off for having them serving day in and day out. So I'd like to thank them very much.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve.
Could you all come down?
Invite everyone down.
Could you all come down for a picture? And any board members want to be in this, please?
Yeah, right. We don't have to.
Anna, why don't we line up here? And why don't you go back to that? Yeah. We're going to put, why don't you come right in the middle of this resolution? There you go. There we go. Turn your shoulders so you get lots of people in. There you go. Turn your shoulders, squeeze it in. Balance this out. How about coming over here to this side? There we go. And balancing this. There you go. Get in there. Anna, can you get us?
Stand up top there.
Thank you all very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Excuse me, if I may, I just wanted to add that 721 SEIU here in Tri-Counties and 721 here in Southern California, we're very honored to represent the social workers, and truly they do amazing work. My own personal experience is that being a social worker is a calling from God, and thank you for rising to the challenge. You know, every day you have challenges, but know that we're here to support you. However and whenever we can, God bless you and give you the strength to continue the good work that you're doing. Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor.
I would also add that obviously the Board of Supervisors is here to support you too, and that you're not only the glue, but just that compassionate, soft part of government. You know, we hear so much about the harder parts of government. You've got to pay your taxes, and you got your infrastructure and your roads and your courts. But this is the softer side, that when people are really in need, very much in need, that they can rely on someone with your professionalism and your compassion. And just thank you so much for the hard work that you do.
And just to lastly echo that, I'm so glad that this resolution is happening, because I don't think most people in the public fully appreciate the nature, the complexity, the challenging nature of the work that you do. So I think it's great that we're doing this, and the more we can talk about it, the better, because we want to support you more, and more people should go into this as a career, because you're helping a lot of people in our community during the most vulnerable times, one by one. So thank you for what you do.
I think that's very true, and Barry said it with courageous. I think that's a key word there, because it's not easy, right? No, dealing with people's issues and all this stuff. So we do thank you for what you do for the people of this community. Thanks very much. Well, it looks like we're into this next thing, Supervisor Bennett. We're just giving up years and years of these people.
The probation department is having a complete turnover in terms of experience. We have hundreds of years worth of experience walking out the door, but it is always an important time for us to honor anybody that has 34 years worth of service. So Inez Tateras, would you please come on down? And thank you for 34 years of service to the citizens of Ventura County through your work in the probation department. We actually have 2 probation recognitions, so that you know. But this is a resolution of the Board of Supervisors honoring Inez Tateras for 34 years of dedicated service to the Ventura County Probation Agency and the citizens of Ventura County. Whereas Inez was raised in Ventura, California, and graduated from Ventura High School, Ventura College, and the Cal State University Northridge in 1976 with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in sociology. And she joined the Ventura County Probation Agency as a group supervisor trainee in December 1978. Inez quickly advanced through the ranks, having been promoted to group supervisor in March 1980, and again in September 1980 promoted to deputy probation officer. Due to her continued strong commitment and work ethic, she received a promotion in September 1998 to Senior Deputy Probation Officer. And during her lengthy county career, Inez faithfully and compassionately supervised a multitude of juvenile and adult probationers in positions which included juvenile intake, juvenile investigations, juvenile placement, community resource management team, intensive supervision services, intensive aftercare, and intensive supervision services juvenile. As a senior deputy probation officer, she has held positions in youth services, Oxnard misdemeanor supervision, juvenile supervision, adult investigations, and Ventura adult field supervision. That's a lot of experience walking out the door, right? She's also dedicated many hours at the Clifton Tatum Center and the juvenile facilities. Among her many achievements, she received the Knights of Columbus Community Safety Award in 1992, as well as many letters of commendation as a result of her collaborative efforts with community resources. Inez has represented the agency in the Superior Court as the Domestic Violence Court Officer and the Prop 36 Court Officer, as well as part of the court team. She's been an agency training instructor and has facilitated the community outreach class, Parent Project, and has been a role model for other staff members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Ventura County Board of Supervisors takes great pleasure in honoring Inez Tateras on her 34 years of dedicated service here to the Ventura County Probation Agency and the citizens of Ventura County. So, thank you very much. And Inez, we'd love to hear from you, and love to hear from anybody else that has any comments they want to make.
Thank you for this honor. When I started in 1978 as a group supervisor, very green and not knowing where I was going and which direction I was going to take, I never realized that I would be in the probation agency for so long and get so many challenges and have so much support from some great people. I've seen the agency develop from an agency that never heard of, pepper spray, guns going out in the field, to an agency that's now armed primarily for people coming out of prison, and it's evolved into such an agency that's varied with so many wonderful people, so many great supervisors and division managers, and a great director. And I'm truly honored to have worked with the probation agency in the county of Ventura for so many years. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for your dedication.
I don't know, Supervisor, you got another one here. If Mark Varela can't keep it, you have to ask our CEO to see if we can keep some of these good people around a little longer.
So, last year we talked about, last week we talked about 97 years walking out the door. Today we're talking about 65 years worth of experience walking out the door, 34 years for Inez. And it is a pleasure to have the honor of honoring Jamie Russell Ortiz for her 31 years of dedicated service. So we're up to the 65 mark here and stuff. And so thank you very much. Whereas Jamie Russell Ortiz was raised in Sycamore, Illinois, and Thousand Oaks, California. She graduated from Cal State University Northridge in 1981 with a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Sociology and Criminology. Jamie joined the Ventura County Probation Agency as a group supervisor extra help in July 1980, and due to her strong commitment and work ethic, she received promotions in December of 81 to group supervisor, November of 86 to deputy probation officer, September of 91 senior deputy probation officer, and in July 97 to supervising deputy probation officer. During her lengthy county career, Jamie faithfully and compassionately supervised a multitude of juvenile and adult probationers in the Juvenile Restitution Project, Adult Investigations, Oxnard Field Services, West County Felony Services, the Work Program, Aftercare Day Reporting Program, Juvenile Investigations, and Juvenile Specialty Courts. And for the past 11 years, Jamie has served 5 Ventura County Chiefs of Probation with honor as a management team member, valued for her experience in contract management and monitoring. In addition, she has dedicated countless hours over the past 2 years as a project director for Reclaiming Futures Ventura County, representing the probation agency and the county at several national conferences and ensuring the utmost level of treatment and accountability for the youth of our county. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors takes great pleasure in honoring Jamie Russell Ortiz for her 31 years of dedicated service to the probation department and to the citizens of Ventura County. Thank you very much, Jamie.
I don't know if I ever thought I'd make it this far, but I'm really fortunate to have chosen the field of probation. I love it, and I've had some great assignments, and to echo Inez, worked with some wonderful people, and I want to thank each of you for the honor and the recognition, and also my probation management staff, some of which are here today, and just say thanks. It's been great.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. And raised in Thousand Oaks.
And to both of you, thank you for your service to the county. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. We have another one that says 50. Nobody's 50 now. Lipson, if you're going to retire some people here, man.
I could have 27 years too.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I don't get to many meetings, but you guys are having a great morning. It seems like honoring a bunch of people.
Yeah.
It's very
good stuff.
Glad to be part of that. The reason I'm here today is that 50 years ago, yesterday, the United States Supreme Court made a landmark ruling, and that was Gideon versus Wainwright. And essentially, Clarence Gideon was arrested for breaking into a pool hall in Florida, allegedly took $5 and some beer, was hauled into court, went in front of the judge and said, "I'd like a lawyer, I can't afford one." And the judge said, essentially, "Too bad, you don't have the right to one." Mr. Gideon went to trial, he defended himself, he acted as his own lawyer. Not surprisingly, he was convicted, sentenced to 5 years in prison. In a prison cell in Florida, with a pencil and a piece of paper, he hand-wrote an appeal to the United States Supreme Court, saying that he deserved the right to counsel. And 50 years ago yesterday, the United States Supreme Court unanimously agreed. And in the landmark case, Gideon versus Wainwright, they said people have the right to counsel. And this decision opened up public defender offices throughout the nation. And keeping with the theme of Women's Month, the first public defender in the United States, Clara Foltz, was a woman in Los Angeles. The right to counsel ensures equal justice. And the United States is committed to this idea that there's not two tiers, there's not rich person's justice and poor person's justice, there's equal justice. And I'm here, kind of like you guys were thinking, I'm here to thank you for ensuring that the dream of Gideon is alive and well in Ventura County based on your actions, and it's very nice to see the supervisors Kildee and Lacey here because it's been a historical event. And I'm also here to say that Ventura is a unique place because the dream of Gideon has not been realized throughout the nation. And 2 years ago, I was elected to a board, a national board for the NLADA, which is the National Legal Aid Defenders Association, the oldest group dedicated to indigent defense. And I'm on this board that advises the board of directors with the public defender from New York City and Boston, et cetera, et cetera. I'm learning a lot of national issues. And in a lot of jurisdictions, people come to court without lawyers. In a lot of jurisdictions, they have public defenders' offices that are hopelessly overwhelmed with cases, with no investigators, with no money for experts, all because of lack of funding. And the criminal justice system, as you know, is adversarial. And in my opinion, this promotes the integrity of the system. We make sure with the checks and balances that innocent people do not get convicted. And in Ventura, we've taken that to another level where lately, based on AB 109 realignment, it's collaborative. So our office works with the sheriff, with the district attorney, probation, behavioral health, the courts, in making sure that the system becomes more efficient and effective. And as you know, realignment's not over. Realignment is ramping up. In July, we have another responsibility. July 1, Ventura County, like all counties, are now responsible for defending people on parole who are charged with violating their parole. And it all starts with Mr. Gideon sitting in a cell in Florida writing this appeal about the right to counsel. When Robert Kennedy was the Attorney General of the United States in the 60s, he once said, "The poor man charged with crime has no lobby." And that couldn't be more true. Gideon versus Wainwright made the right to counsel the law, but it's never said how to fund it. And in different jurisdictions, they do it different ways. That's why I'm so proud to be the public defender of Ventura, and I'm proud to work here with you, because you have the commitment to justice and the commitment to fairness to fund things appropriately. And because of that, I get the privilege of working with 93 full-time employees in my office, hardworking investigators, paralegals, clericals, and attorneys, whose basic job, what we do for, what we essentially shoot for in every case, is zealous and effective representation of everyone charged with a crime. That's what they're dedicated to, and I'm very proud of them. So, essentially, I stand here thanking you for acknowledging that the criminal justice system is just that, a system. System won't work if one side is overfunded versus another. And I've been here 27 years. In the 27 years I've been here through the different supervisors, there's been a constant, and you guys appreciate our office, and you appreciate the idea that if there's not equal justice, there's no justice. So 50 years ago, Gideon versus Wainwright comes up with a decision. I'm just here to thank you for funding our office appropriately and ensuring that the dream of Gideon lives in Ventura and that there's equal justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the history lesson. That was great. That was, and it's interesting you do hear that there is other parts of the country that don't believe that in the right for people to have counsel. It's interesting.
Yeah, they come to court and they do not have an attorney. They eventually get one, but in the beginning there's very important decisions made essentially about bail. So without going into too much, there's a lot of jurisdictions where people don't get bail. They're stuck in jail. It's a coercive tool by the courts and the district attorney to force them to plead guilty. And they have that happening without a lawyer. So it's very tricky. So I've always been appreciative of where I live and where I work, but after talking to these people throughout the nation, I'm like, unbelievable. It's really, really bad in places. And the Attorney General of the United States now, Eric Holder, mentioned last month that there's an epidemic. It's a problem. But it's not a problem in Ventura. It's not a problem because of you guys. You fund us appropriately. You make sure that we can investigate cases. We can talk to people. We have access to the jail with the collaboration, and it works, but it doesn't work everywhere.
Mr. Chair, if I could, oftentimes I've said, the measure of a civilization is how well we take care of the least fortunate amongst us, and the public defenders don't get recognized very often, publicly, and they certainly there's people that want to, put a certain stereotype on there, but I think we all should feel proud of the fact that that measure of civilization is a little higher here in Ventura County because of the hard work of people in the public defender's office. So I hope you'll take that back to the 93 people.
I definitely will. Thank you very much.
I'd just say, yes, thank you, and I appreciate every year that this comes forward. I think that this board, and historically, as you said, is very committed to this. It's astounding to me when you mention that in other parts that isn't the case, and it's maybe because folks play around with the resources to make it that disadvantaged. But I actually attended a dinner years ago, and Margaret Thatcher spoke, and she was asked what separates us from England, and she said our system of laws and our fairness of justice. And this, what the public defenders offers to those cases that are egregious, not anomalies, but egregious in our country, needs to be supported and needs to continue to be part of that balance of justice. So thank you for bringing this forward always.
You're very welcome.
Just really well said. I appreciate you bringing it forward. You realize how justice is supposed to be blind and neutral, but in this particular case, it was certainly based on income. And so it's really important, and nationally, it is surprising that there would be anywhere where all of a sudden it's how much money you have, whether you can get an attorney to represent you. And often it is the lower income people that are based in the justice system, so it isn't a very important decision.
Well, I saw Supervisor's long look when I said that, and the first meeting I was at, we're at this meeting with, there's some heavyweights. The public defender's office in New York has, 800 lawyers, and there's very large people. And they said, we need to really talk about right to counsel. And I had no idea what they were talking about. And I nudged the guy next to me, having me from California. I said, what's wrong with these people? What are they talking about? And then he told me, and I was astounded. And it's not the Deep South. It's Massachusetts. It's upstate New York. It's little towns that don't have the resources and choose to allocate them, in my opinion, inappropriately and in such a way. So it all gets back to how the money is divvied up, and I'm really appreciative with all the resources that are tapping for you and the drumbeat of public safety that you've seen historically, that it's important to make sure our office is funded. So thank you very much.
Just one note. Funding is very important. You can't do it without it, but I think we have to remember that the quality of the representation makes a huge difference too. And I think that's what you have in your public defender's office, is an exceptionally high quality of attorney there. And the difference that makes. And so thank you to you.
You and I had this talk about the similarities between public health, and you don't want the doctors at county hospital doing shabby operations just because the person doesn't have much of an income. Same thing, the lawyers in our office are as good as any lawyers in the county by far, and the support staff, the investigators, the paralegals, and the clerical. I agree with you 100%. We have a very good group of passionate people that believe in their cause. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thanks, all of you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I have a question, and I think we passed over that quick. I'm sorry, not for this item, but on the resolution we passed for in perpetuity, did we need to take a specific action on that to make that part of the public record?
I would think so, huh?
Because I believe we submitted a letter, Supervisor, that asked for the board's action on that. In addition to the resolution, I was looking to find the attachment, but I'd like to, if we could, I think we should take that action so that it is.
Why don't you make your second there, and then,
Okay, let me get on, and there's my second.
there you go. That sound about right, Roberta? County Council,
Thank you.
thank you. We need to receive and file? Okay. Hang on, let it come up. Brian's going to work on making that machine as fast as Roberta's brain. There we go. Somebody else has to vote. There we go. Okay, so that was good. And those are all of our items. We're going to do a closed session, but I just want to make a comment. This will be my last meeting with the queen of the board here. So I just want to say, Roberta, thank you so much for everything, and look forward to seeing you when I get back. But thank you. It was great to see the supervisors that came from years ago, as Kathy said, 33 years ago. We're still talking about you as the queen, as forever. And Brian will stand on your shoulders, taking what you've done, just as we as supervisors stand on their shoulders for all the hard work that they've put into, as we heard today, because of some of the things they put in, we're still doing now. And so I just again say thank you for all, and thank you for your friendship. Thank you. And we'll go into closed session. Do we have any announcements out of closed session today?
No announcements.
No announcements. Great. Wonderful. Thank you. We'll adjourn from closed session.